What's going on, Cats fans? It's Ben Reeve here from The Hoop Show. Thank you for joining me again. It's 2023. We did try a bit of a live show a few days ago, which was an absolute failure, but that's okay. So we were pre-recording this one. I think we've got the lighting okay. Hopefully the video quality is pretty good for you. Everything's working fine. Let's get on with it, though. Let's go through some of the player previews for 2023. So we're going to go through this in about 9 or 10 parts with about 4 or 5 players at a time. And some of the players, I'll go through in number order, and because we don't know some of the players yet, I'll save the ones that, some of our new players, we'll save them to the end because we won't know them until, well, hopefully soon we'll know what numbers they're getting. But anyway, not important, not that important anyway. Number one, our ruckman, our premiership ruckman. Let's call him a premiership ruckman. He'll always be a premiership ruckman. Rhys Stanley. Look, I'm expecting Rhys to have a reasonable year. I'm probably expecting injuries to hit him again a little bit. Hopefully, he'll get through most of the season. I think he'll have a lot more competition for games this year. Unfortunately, as he sort of ages another year, and we try and bring a few more, we look to the future a little bit more. So I'm expecting Rhys to maybe play about 14 games this year. I still think he's in our grand final side if we make the grand final. I don't have him in our round one team at the moment, but definitely as our best ruckman if we make the grand final. I think he'll be picked over maybe a Toby Conway or a Radagalia or someone like that, possibly even a Shannon Neal if he ends up playing a bit of ruck time. So that's where I've got Stanley. A pretty okay year, maybe just a slight drop-off on last year, if anything. Pretty good last year, I thought, overall, so I can't really complain too much. Zach Tuohy, our number 2. I've got Zach in our round 1 team. I think Zach's going to have a reasonable year again. He's going to defy age somewhat and play 21 games. I think he'll be pretty happy with that, if I reckon, if he can play 21 games. And I've also got Zach in our grand final side as well. I think he'll be one of our better players throughout the year. There'll be a few players that might sort of drop off with age a little bit, and as I mentioned before, Rhys should be one of those. So we'll see what happens there, but I think Rhys will drop off. I think Tuohy will keep his spot in the side throughout most of the year anyway. They'll get rested a couple of times, and he might get an injury or two, but I think he'll still play 21 games for the year and do okay. And number 3, Brandan Parfitt. Again, I'm expecting him to be in our round 1 side and also in our grand final side this time around. Not as a medical sub, but as probably even starting on the ground, actually. I reckon he'll have a cracker year this time around. I think he'll play pretty much every game, maybe with 1 or 2. Again, I haven't got a crystal ball. I don't know if someone's going to roll an ankle or pull a hammy or something like that, but based on his age and what they're hoping, he's going to sort of take the reins a little bit in that midfield with Selwood gone. Injury aside, he should play 25 games or so, I'd hope, anyway. And as I said, grand final side, not first pick, but he'll definitely be starting on the ground, or maybe even a worst case scenario as a sub. So we'll see. Now, we don't have a number 4 at this point in time, possibly Tanner Bruin, but we'll wait and see on that one to see what the club says in the next little bit. But number 5, Jeremy Cameron. What more can you say about Jazza? He'll be in our round 1 side. He'll be in our best 22 when the whips are cracking on grand final day. Again, assuming we get there. He'll also be probably reasonably healthy throughout the year. I think he's reasonably okay. Apart from those hammies, if we can get them right, if we can look after him in that regard, hopefully we'll be okay. I see him maybe getting rested a couple of times. 22 games around about that mark, I'm guessing, for Jezza. I also am predicting Jezza for another All-Australian season in 2023 as well. So he's one of the 4 or 5 guys I've got as possibly All-Australians this year. And my last one on this first part episode is Toby Conway, at number 6 at the moment. Now, I just heard a few hours ago actually, that he's in a moon boot at the moment, so it might be a bit of a delayed start. I did have him when I wrote up my player previews a few days ago. I did have him as a round 1 selection, so potentially that might go to Rhys Stanley now if Rhys is fit. I was thinking maybe we'd give Toby a go early doors. He played pretty well in the VFL towards the back end of last year, and I thought he's ready to go. But unfortunately, injuries caught up with him, so hopefully he comes through that pretty well. Anyway, what did you think? Do you agree with what I thought in terms of these first 5 or 6 players? I think it was 5 players in this first little batch. Maybe you don't. There's a couple of older guys there, like Rhys and Zach might sort of drop off a bit. I think most people would agree with, assuming in Jeremy Cameron's injury free, he should be fine to have a pretty good year, pretty successful year, and kind of an all-Australian year really. Toby Conway, probably the one thing I didn't mention with Toby, I had him. The other thing I had him is about eight games, so I'm thinking they'll give him a good in year 2 for him. He's had a pretty good year in the VFL. I think this year we'll get him around that 8 or 10 games, hopefully. That I'd see him and sort of Rhys Stanley rotating that sort of number 1 ruck position role, with Rhys primarily being our main ruckman through the year, but Toby getting a lot of games as well. So, yeah, 8 games for Toby. So, anyway, that's my thought on that first batch. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out part 2, and I'll see you next time. Take care, cats. Cheers. Bye.